Okay, time to get up. Well, the things I do for coffee sometimes. Okay, I actually haven't been to this part of Yunning Mountain in a long time. Usually, when it's a very nice day, it's actually quite beautiful. But as you can see behind me, visibility isn't exactly the best. It's I think it's the first time I've actually gone the slowest here because there were some areas. Okay, this visibility that you see behind me is actually good compared to some areas where the road literally just disappeared. And you kind of have to be careful because we're literally in the clouds and there's leaves on the ground and it's very wet and very slippy in some areas. Um, the only reason why I stopped here because the cafe that I wanted to go to isn't open yet. It opens in 10 minutes and it's literally only 10 minutes away, but I wanted to stop here just for a second so I can show you actually how kind of bad it is. So there's a road. I'm going to turn around a bit. There is a road behind me, and the road kind of goes into a fork. But when it's like this, you actually don't see it because one goes up, you see that one. But when it's really bad like it is now, the other one kind of goes down. So it just like the road kind of just turns one way. And of course, the way stupid Google uh, Maps is, it tells you turn right. And then just as you're about to turn right, it says, no, no, make it left. Sharp left. Anyway, actually, it's actually not bad. I was very surprised actually to see quite a few people up here today. Um, not people on motorcycles, and it's still a little bit early for that. You can hear birds behind me. There's some chickens as well. Don't know what it is. Um, yeah, a lot of people hiking. There are a lot of hiking trails up here. You just sort of have to be careful. If you do hike up here, you sort of have to be careful because, especially when it's like this, when you're on days when it's like literally in the fog, it can be very slippy. Anyway, let's continue to the cafe that I wanted to go to today. I don't know why I chose this one, especially on a day like this, because like I said, when it's not foggy, it's a really beautiful place, but we're literally up in the clouds today. So let's head there right now. And hopefully they open at the time they say they do. I don't know. It's happened before where you check on a location. They say, oh yeah, we open at 7:30 in the morning, and then you get there and there's nobody there. So I hope that's not the case with this place. But anyway, we'll see in a moment. Well, I managed to find it. And I had actually been here before, but it was some time ago. Uh, if there was no fog today, I would be facing the other way because actually it's a pretty nice view. But as you can probably see from the video, you really can't see anything. Something actually I want to touch on for a moment. I don't know how many people, you probably do, remember a television show that was on in the late 90s and early 2000s called American Chopper. And I bring this up because recently there's a channel that I happen to like very much called Bikes and Beards, or Beards and Bikes. And they did a video last year on an American chopper bike by Orange County Choppers that they bought. And Sean was saying it was probably the worst bike that he's ever ridden. I actually have to agree with him on that because I have ridden, okay, not in the last 5 years, but in 2010 and again in 2012, I rode 3 different OCC bikes, Orange County Chopper bikes. And they're just... Okay, I'll tell you how I came across the first one. The first one, I was in the US for a conference, and I met a guy here, and we were talking about motorcycles, and he said, oh, he has an Orange County Chopper bike at his place. Would I like to go and see it? I said, sure, okay. So I went to see it, and rode it for a bit. Not that long, like 15 minutes. And I hated it after the first 30 seconds. That was the first one. Second one was in 2012. A friend of mine who lived in Maine, the U.S. state of Maine, knew somebody who had one, and we went to see him, and I rode that one. Didn't like it. And then the third one was also in 2012. The guy who had one, he said he knew somebody also that had one, and could we go see it? And I said, okay, sure. Rode that one in 30 seconds, and I just despised it. The thing, though, about OCC choppers, okay, choppers in particular, everybody knows what a chopper bike is. I mean, my first bicycle that I had was a chopper. They were very popular in the late 70s and 80s. But for a motorcycle, everybody, of course, knows what choppers are, but they're just absolute rubbish. And the thing is, the 3 people that had these bikes actually sold them. They bought them because they, okay, I will say one thing, they do look cool. They definitely look cool. But they bought them, basically it was an impulse purchase because they, like I said, they look cool. If you want a bike to just have in your living room, say, here's my chopper, and not ride it, fine. But you ride the damn thing. I mean, the 3 that I rode, unless OCC did bikes that had suspension, I don't know. They probably did. Or maybe they didn't. First of all, there's no suspension. There wasn't any suspension on the seats. And you literally feel every single bump in the road. If there's a pebble, you feel a pebble. You can feel a grain of salt. That's how atrocious they actually are. And it comes to the thing about, let's say, modifying bikes. Now, I do love modifying bikes, and I love modified bikes, but sadly, it's not. It's like with cars. Uh, I have driven cars that have been heavily modified, and when it's done well, it's done well. But there's many more that are not done well, and basically, you ruin the whole driving experience, and the car doesn't perform the way it should. Especially when you start fiddling with things that screw up if there's a turbo, screws up the turbo, screws up the L2 sensors, and then everything else. But a lot of people, of course, don't do it that way because you have to reprogram things. But of course, a lot of people also do it that way. So when it comes to chopper bikes and these bikes from OCC, Orange County Chopper, I mean, honestly, I think they're absolute rubbish. Now, the thing I enjoyed about the TV show is that I think it was less about the bikes and more about the fighting and the shouting and the swearing that was going on between Paul Sr. and Paul Jr.
If you weren't involved here, let me tell you something. Listen, if I wasn't involved, this place would go to shit. It would burn to the ground. That's bullshit.
You know what? Get the fuck out of here. Fuck.
I think that's what made the show. I can understand if you're a big corporation and you want to get a bike like that and it looks cool, but it's not really being driven, it's just sort of there as a showpiece. That completely makes sense. But the other thing that I realized with the three that I saw, okay, this is only three, is that I don't know so much about the build quality. The build quality seemed a little bit, for myself anyway, a little bit sketchy. Maybe to somebody else it would be fine, but for me it seemed a little bit sketchy. The other thing I remember, of course, is the brakes were not, well, there were brakes there, I think, just for show. The braking was horrible on it, and then the rear tire would lock up easily. Yeah, I mean, I don't get it. I don't get why somebody would actually want a bike like that, unless they saw the movie Easy Rider, and went, oh, Peter Fonda had one. Oh, I want to get the same thing. Yeah, but we're talking about a movie here, and he's not really riding it a lot, and it's for a movie. But riding a chopper bike, I mean, I suppose there are choppers that are very good at riding. But these three guys who bought them, I found out not that long after, maybe a few years after I had ridden them, that they eventually sold them after keeping them, I think, less than 2 years. The first guy, he had it for 1 year, and then he got rid of it because he hated riding the damn thing. In the process, losing a lot of money. His bike was not one that it wasn't featured on the TV show. It was one that he specifically ordered, and he paid, I think, something like 55 or between 55 and 60,000 US dollars. Well, he eventually sold it for 8 on a bike that had, I would estimate, probably even with the distance that I rode, probably less than 300 kilometers on it. I mean, that's really losing the value. Really losing the value. So, I don't know how you think about this, but like I said, modifications are good. And when they're done well, the bike is stunning. But sometimes they're just like for show and nothing else. And it's like people that collect bikes. Bikes that I collect, I do ride them. And I have different bikes that I take out for different reasons. But I don't know why somebody would get. It's like people that collect classic cars, and they just leave them there. And they don't do anything with them. They don't even drive them. Other people that drive them, yeah, of course, that makes sense. But to just have it to look at, I don't know. It's a bit strange to me. Anyway, I'd like to know how you feel about chopper bikes and heavily modified bikes. Leave your comments below. And I'm going to finish what I just ordered, which is this coffee right here, which is actually quite nice. And I left home today rather early, and I didn't have a chance to eat anything. So I ordered this here. Let me hold it up. Hopefully it won't fall off the plate. It's a piece of toast that has chocolate and peanut butter on it. And then I'm going to get going. Anyway, like, comment, and subscribe.